The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus walked along. As he walked along, he saw a man blind from birth. He spat on the ground and made mud with the saliva and spread the mud on the man's eyes, saying to him, "Go, wash in the pool of Siloam," which means sent. Then the man who was blind went and washed and came back able to see. The neighbors and those who had seen him before as a beggar began to ask, "Is this not the man who used to sit and beg?" Some were saying, "It is he." Others were saying, "No, but it is someone like him." He kept saying, "I am the man." They brought to the Pharisees the man who had formerly been blind. Now it was the Sabbath day when Jesus made the mud and opened his eyes. Then the Pharisees also began to ask him how he had received his sight. He said to them, "He put mud on my eyes. Then I washed, and now I see." Some of the Pharisees said, "This man is not from God, for he does not observe the Sabbath." But others said, "How can a man who is a sinner perform such signs?" And they were divided. So they said again to the blind man, "What do you say about him? It was your eyes he opened." He said, "He is a prophet." They answered him, "You were born entirely in sins, and you are trying to teach us?" And they drove him out. Jesus heard that they had driven him out, and he went and found him, and he said, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" And he answered, "And who is he, sir? Tell me so that I may believe in him." Jesus said to him, "You have seen him. The one speaking with you is he." He said, "Lord, I believe." And he worshipped him. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Miracles are among God's greatest gift to the church for evangelizing. And yet these miracles may be our best kept secret. Jesus said, "Whoever believes in me will do even greater things." And I believe no saint has worked greater miracles than Padre Pio. There's actually a movie coming out soon about him, played by Shia LaBeouf, very famous actor. The movie is just a side note here. The movie is actually filmed in an actual monastery, and he was converted while he was playing this part, and he's now a very active Catholic, and there's interviews on TV about on YouTube with him with Bishop Barron. So it was a very moving experience for this actor to play this role here, showing all the troubles he'd been in and things like that, and he was in a good environment. So Padre Pio, he was born in 1887, and he was canonized in 2002. He was known for the stigmata. That's the 5 crucifixion wounds of Jesus. These painful, invisible wounds stayed with him and bled daily for 50 years until his death in 1968. One of his most famous miracles was the healing of Gemma Di Giorgi. She was born blind with no pupils. Gemma had no aperture in the middle of the iris, so the iris did not contract or expand. At the age of 7, St. Pio made the sign of the cross over her eyes, and she could see. She lived well into old age and spent a lot of that traveling the world telling others about her experience. Her testimony was short. "I was blind, and now I see." There was actually a lady after last night's Mass came up to me and said she actually met this lady, which was amazing. She was telling me about it. So these things happen. A miracle, great or small, is an experience of the presence of God. In the gospel today, a blind man is healed, and the Pharisees were upset. They knew about God by theory, but this blind man knew about God by experience. No one is going to tell him any different. His eyes and his life would now be changed forever. So you really can't know anything until you experience it first, right? You can't know God until you experience him in some way. Jesus doesn't play hide and seek. It's God's nature to reveal himself, and he does so in a billion different ways, and each one is tailored just for you. No one is excluded from this opportunity. No one can say, this can't be for me. God doesn't even know I exist. That's just not true. Our unbelief is the only barrier to experiencing God. And to break that, we have to begin by simply praying, simply. Just you and God. Start by finding somewhere private. Maybe the bathroom if you have to, okay? Then in your own words, strike up a conversation with the Lord. Something like, if you're really there, Jesus, please reveal yourself to me. Say that every day for a month, and if nothing happens, come back here, I'll give you your money back. Okay? Okay, where were we here? But be specific, okay? Tell Jesus in detail where you need him most in your life. And it can be a humbling experience, but be open and honestly reveal yourself. You know, it's just like when we go to the doctor's office and the doctor finally comes in and he says those dreaded words, okay, let's have a look at that. That's just like Jesus. We have to do the same thing. We have to show the doctor and Jesus what we have wrong in order for it to get fixed. We have to reveal our hearts to him so he can heal our hearts. St. James says, draw close to God and he'll draw close to you. The blind man drew close and let Jesus work on him by rubbing mud in his eyes. The Pharisees stood at a distance and received nothing. The blind man revealed his blindness. The Pharisees hid their spiritual blindness. Admitting our helplessness is the absolute necessary starting point. It all starts there. We surrender that specific part of our life that's not working, then we stand back and get on with our day. After that, our job is to just believe. Jesus said to Martha, did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God? It's our faith that gives God the chance to do something in our life, regardless of how we feel, and no matter how it looks on the outside. If we've prayed, surrendered to God, our position now is to just believe. I think some of the healthiest people that I've ever met or will ever meet are people with addiction that are in robust recovery. There seems to be almost a benefit to having recovered from an addiction. In the very midst of their turmoil, they've given it over to God, recommitted themselves, and have experienced his help. In many cases, they will say, without God, I would not be here today. And just like this blind man who stood before the Pharisees was not afraid to say, I was blind and now I see. And how helpful it is to see all types of sin, gossip, selfishness, anger, just like an addiction, because sin is a type of blindness holding us back from living life to the fullest. Many who have restarted their life will say that they're actually in a way grateful for their weaknesses, because without it, they would have never have found God's peace, something that they were always searching for. And coming up soon at the Easter Vigil, we're going to recite this prayer. O happy fault, O necessary sin of Adam, which gained for us so great a Redeemer. When you've been through something really difficult and now someone comes to you for help, you can now offer a whole new level of understanding and compassion. And this is how God gives us the credentials to help other people. It's not just a theory in your head, it's something you've experienced. Jesus, before this gospel started, Jesus' disciples asked, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Neither this man nor his parents sinned, said Jesus. He was born blind so that the works of God may be revealed in him. Let's ask ourselves, where can the works of God be revealed in us? Can we look at the worst part of ourselves and believe that the works of God can be revealed there? Jesus is making it very clear to the disciples that our weakness is the very place for him to show his compassion. And for many of us, Jesus is just a character and he's not a person. He remains outside of us. He touches our minds without warming our hearts. And I'll tell you, the best thing I've ever done in my life to recommit and experience God was to carve out some time for confession. The sacrament is offered here every Saturday morning, and not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday, all day. We'll have priest here for you. You may have to wait to get in, but it's worth it. In confession, just like the blind man, we experience the healing of mercy on our sin, on the worst of who we can be. And we also experience how easy it is to get right with him again. After we receive Jesus today in the Eucharist, let's recommit ourselves to believe, to reveal, and then to heal. Draw close to God, and he'll draw close to you.